Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching today's Midday Western U.S. Regional Forecast video brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions. I want to start things off by taking a look here at the cloud field across the Pacific Ocean, because this animation that you're watching here, I think is going to give us a lot of clues as to the way the things are going to be evolving with time. Specifically, we keep seeing in the Gulf of Alaska storm systems getting wrapped up and pulled into the Gulf of Alaska under what seems to be a resurging, broadening trough in that area. In other words, we just keep getting the flow to do something like this, and that's going to target most of the energy from these storm systems that are out there in the Central Pacific and moving into the Gulf of Alaska toward British Columbia and the Pacific Northwest. And while that's all happening, I kind of stopped this just to show you two things. One, higher atmospheric pressure seems to be sitting here just off the coast of California, and as a result, systems are kind of, like we said, redirecting to the north. And the second thing is we just don't see any sort of semblance of a strong subtropical jet stream feel out of this. In fact, if I just play it one more time for you here, what you don't see is just winds screaming from basically Hawaii straight into Mexico or Arizona or Southern California. And I think that's going to be the major clues that we're going to have to use to understand this upcoming precipitation pattern. So the animation you're watching here is total accumulated precipitation through the next week. In fact, I'm going to let it go all the way out to 10 days to show you what the operational models are looking at right now. And so what we see here is that over that time period, the heaviest precipitation is going to be concentrated in coastal Oregon and Washington, and then up into British Columbia. The Columbia Basin, on the relatively drier side of things, just a couple of times are we able to get some precipitation over the mountains and into the basin. The Snake River Valley is quiet and dry, and if you get into the southern 4/5 of California, it's a very, very dry upcoming 10-day time period, and that extends, as you see here, over into Arizona, New Mexico, into that region as well. So again, that's a 10-day forecast map put out by the European model. We're going to look into some more of the details here as to when and how this all comes through. So let's just go straight here to this morning. So this is Tuesday morning, and you can almost see the pattern as it's fully evolving. Here's that high pressure cell sitting right in this area, 1,024 millibar high. That's pretty high. And we see deep low pressure systems like the one that you see here. Well, the tail end of their frontal boundaries there, they're all moving in this direction. So these frontal boundaries are going to kind of lash the coast here. Now, with the setup like this, one thing I just want to make you all aware of, as each one of these systems comes through, they do increase the wind, the potential winds that can get up 30 to 40 miles an hour during this time of year on the other side of the Cascade Mountains, for example. And so therefore, in the Columbia Basin, getting over toward Idaho and the Snake River Valley, there will be times in the upcoming 10 days that you're going to see some pretty strong winds out of these systems. But to the south, my concern is going to be more about the heat and the very low relative humidities we're going to be seeing in the Central Valley and also down in the deserts down south. So with that as the setup, let's get those drawings off there and get through this quickly so you can see when and where this precipitation is coming through. So pressing play, let's just step you back and watch this move forward. Tuesday afternoon and evening, getting into the overnight hours on Tuesday into early Wednesday morning. So if system number one wraps up here and basically leaves the west coast on the drier side of things through Wednesday morning. As we then get into Wednesday afternoon and evening, that's when we start to see maybe some scattered shower activity Wednesday afternoon and evening across parts of Oregon and Washington, northern Idaho. But then in the overnight hours, it's really just going to be right here along the front slopes that we increase our chances of getting, some precipitation here, again, on this side of the Cascade Mountains. But do notice this, the high pressure cell's back in place Thursday morning, and here's our next low curling around through the base of the trough that's in the Gulf of Alaska. So you see it moving up there as well. And before that, just notice, I'll go back and forth here. This is Thursday morning, afternoon, and evening. Just widely scattered showers throughout much of the Pacific Northwest. But again, it's not in our rain shadows. It's not in the Snake River Valley. But do notice that with that system pulling through, see how kind of the isobars are bunching up a bit? That's what I was talking about, those stronger winds. This, again, is Thursday evening. Now we watch the next system come after the central part of the Gulf of Alaska by Friday night, getting into Saturday morning. And this may be, I've been watching this for a few days now, Saturday may be the wettest day along coastal Oregon and Washington, and that tail end of that precip could get into Northern California by Sunday midday. See that? Northern California, and we might have enough cold air at the highest elevations to add a little bit of snow. But you see the high pressure cell going back over, doing its job again, blocking things up here as that system moves on through by next Tuesday. And so we just keep seeing that being the main pattern. I'm going to let this go. This is out 220 hours all the way out to 10 days. That seems to be the name of the game in our flow pattern coming up here. All right. So from there, let's just look exclusively at week 2. This is from the European model, and it's showing up on a drier bias for most of the West and Pacific Northwest. And again, it's what's going on here with the developing ridge. Remember that ridge we talked about in so many videos leading up to today. So from there, this is what the all hazards weather map looks like from weather.gov. And again, my concern is, in addition to the excessive heat warnings and air quality issues we're going to be having down here in the desert, right in here and through the Central Valley of California, we will be seeing times relative humidities at the peak of afternoon heating down to the 30 to 35% range. And we will also see low relative humidities here in the rain shadow of the Cascade Mountains. So that's something else I'm going to be watching out for. So with that, we're going to be increasing those evaporation rates, maybe up over 2 inches of water evaporating a week in these areas where the humidity levels are dropping down to that 30 to 35% range during the peak heating of the day. Now remember, in the early morning, the humidity levels really skyrocket back up. But when we're getting those high evaporation rates in mid-afternoon heat, that's what I'm concerned about. So let's take a look at those temperatures. Today on Tuesday, we're going to see 90s in the Central Valley, upper 70s in Northern California, then getting into a beautiful day in the Northwest in terms of temperatures here, with a lot of upper 60s and lower 70s. As we go forward, let's just take a look at now Wednesday's high temperatures. Again, another warm one out west, as you can see here, getting into being as much as 20 degrees above average in this part of Nevada. Playing forward from here, this is now Wednesday's temperatures. We start to see some more cloud cover coming in, remember, toward the end of the week on Thursday. And on Thursday, that's just going to take our temperatures back over to what we'd call normal here in the Pacific Northwest, while we hang on to that warm bias across much of California. In fact, we don't see much in terms of relief from above average temperatures as we work into Friday and even into Saturday and Sunday. It'll only be along the coast on Saturday and Sunday that we do see temperatures getting back down to what we could say was a degree or two below normal. But the Central Valley, right on target for this time of year. Meanwhile, the Northwest, by the time we work into the weekend, so remember, that's when we saw the heavier precipitation coming through. That's when temperatures are cooling back off a little bit. But just take a look at this. This is now looking out at the 6 to 10 day time period. Overall, California stays on the warmer side of things. We return closer to normal across the Pacific Northwest, with maybe a slight cooler bias here, as we do bring at times flow a little bit more perpendicular off of the ocean as the ridge slides and moves around a little bit. That's all that we're saying. But going out here today, 11 through 15, look, it just kind of keeps resurging with the warmth coming back into the whole of the western part of North America in the GFS model, and certainly here in the European model showing up, while the east is stuck in a colder pattern. What I'm going to be talking about tomorrow in the technical update, and I hope you get a chance to tune into that, is why this pattern seems to be so persistent. We will be discussing a few things, because if you look out there to that day 11 to 15 time period, I just want to show you something. Look at the warmth here over this part of Russia, and the cold here lined up on that side of North America, and it's kind of mirrored down here in South America as well. We will talk about what the Madden-Julian oscillation is doing as it possibly pops out into phases 5, 6, and 7. And then what's going on with El Nino. We need to have an in-depth discussion about what's happening with El Nino and La Nina, because I think it's going to be a bigger player as we move forward in the forecast. I'm going to give you a quick hint of that in a moment here. Just to show you what I'm expecting, though, this is exclusively week 3, so we're only looking at week 3 here. This takes us out from May 12th through the 19th. Do notice that in week 3, that bigger ridge is forecast to hang on here. So we do see the warmer bias, and naturally this time of year things are starting to dry out along the west coast, so we don't see a major precipitation anomaly overall. But what we'll be talking about tomorrow are these ocean temperatures, specifically this feature here in contrast with the cooler water in there, what the trade winds are currently doing, and how we anticipate them evolving as we work our way into summer. Because notice that warm blob is still in the forecast here as we look out to August, September, October, and the cooler water emerging here is kind of in contrast to that. So we need to have a discussion about this, and I'll put it in tomorrow's long range update. Until then, again, Southern California, hot and dry. We're going to be looking at drier overall conditions along the west coast, with the exception of coastal Oregon and Washington as we move forward. So just keep that in the back of your mind as you watch the weather carefully over the next few days. I'll talk to you again tomorrow. Thank you.